The first time I saw the Artemis was through a veil of copper-tinted rain. She hung suspended between storm clouds, her sleek hull gleaming despite years of neglect. Not the rusted derelict I'd been led to expect, but a vessel still proud, still defiant, as if waiting for someone to remember her name. I am Captain Eliza Blackwood, or at least, that's who I am now. In the floating harbours of New Albion, they call me the Reclaimer, salvager of forgotten vessels, collector of abandoned dreams. 20 years scouring the skies has taught me that everything lost wants to be found, even the things that should remain forgotten. The Artemis had vanished during the Gear Revolution, another casualty in the war that transformed our world from nation-states to sky colonies. Her disappearance had become a ghost story told in Portside Tavern. Shows she'd sailed into the Tempest Belt with an experimental engine and never returned. Until now, I guided my scouting vessel, the Mockingbird, through the storm's edge. Lightning crackled around us, illuminating brass fixtures in brief bursts of electric blue. My first mate, Sebastian, hunched over his navigation console, his mechanical eye whirring as it adjusted to the darkness.
"Captain,"
he said, voice tight.
"Pressure's dropping. We shouldn't be here."
I ignored him, focused on the ship before us. Something about her called to me, a silent frequency that resonated in my bones.
"Prepare the boarding cables,"
I ordered.
"I'm going across."
Sebastian turned, his human eye narrowed.
The manifest didn't mention what cargo she was carrying.
All the more reason to find out.
As I secured my boarding harness, I caught my reflection in the cabin window. Sharp features framed by a shock of white hair cut close to the scalp. A thin scar traced from temple to jaw. A souvenir from my first salvage operation. I'd changed so much since then. Memory surfaces. Small hands clutching a doll with clockwork limbs. A tall woman in a captain's uniform kneeling before me.
"I'll come back for you, little bird."
The woman's face blurs in my mind, as it always does. I pushed the thought away and stepped into the airlock. The crossing took less than a minute, the boarding cable singing in the wind as I slid toward the Artemis. Her hull loomed larger with every second, brass and mahogany, gleaming despite 2 decades of abandonment. No rust, no rot. Impossible. My boots touched down on her observation deck with a hollow thud. The sensation that washed over me was immediate recognition, as if I'd walked these planks before.
"I'm aboard."
I spoke into my communicator.
"Commencing sweep."
The Artemis was eerily intact. Contrary to my expectations, there were no signs of battle damage or catastrophic failure. The ship appeared to have been waiting. Deck chairs still arranged around small tables, teacups long dried but still in saucers. A book lay open on a side table, pages undisturbed by time or elements. I moved inside, following brass-railed corridors toward the bridge. Each step brought another wave of uncanny familiarity. My hand reached instinctively for door handles before I consciously located them. My feet avoided loose floorboards I couldn't possibly have known about. The navigation room held star charts pinned to corkboards, routes marked in faded red ink. One particular course was circled repeatedly coordinates, leading deep into the Tempest Belt, towards something labelled only as Threshold. The captain's quarters were locked, but my fingers found a hidden catch beside the doorframe without hesitation. Inside, time seemed to have stopped completely. A uniform jacket hung on a mannequin, brass buttons gleaming. A music box sat open on the desk, its mechanism silent. Navigational instruments were arranged with military precision, and the portraits. A striking woman in captain's regalia, her eyes piercing even through the canvas. Beside her, a small girl with the same determined expression, holding a doll with clockwork limbs. My hands began to shake. Memory breaks through. The smell of engine oil and cinnamon tea, hiding under the navigation table during a storm. The captain, my mother, laughing as she found me there.
You can't hide from the sky, little bird. It's in your blood.
I staggered, catching myself against the desk. A panel shifted beneath my hand, revealing a hidden compartment. Inside lay a brass key, unlike any I'd seen before. Intricate gears formed its head, tiny embedded crystals catching the light. My communicator crackled.
Captain, we've got company. 3 Imperial vessels on approach. They're not responding to hails.
I should have left then, should have taken what I'd found and retreated to the Mockingbird. Instead, I moved deeper into the ship, drawn toward the engine room by some invisible current. The key grew warm in my palm, its gears beginning to turn of their own accord. The engine chamber was a cathedral of brass and copper, dominated by a mechanism that defied conventional design. No steam pistons or combustion chambers, but concentric rings surrounding a spherical core of darkened glass. The threshold engine, the experimental technology that had supposedly led to the Artemis's disappearance. A keyhole waited at the control panel. Memory surges, alarms blaring. My mother's voice urgent.
They can't have it, Eliza. Remember the sequence.
Numbers whispered in my ear as she sealed me into an escape pod. Her last words.
When you find her again, you'll know what to do.
I inserted the key. The engine stirred, rings beginning to rotate slowly. The glass core lightened, revealing swirling mist inside that coalesced into recognizable shapes, star patterns, navigation routes, faces long forgotten. The ship groaned around me, systems awakening after decades of dormancy. Lights flickered on, gauges sprang to life. The communicator at my hip erupted in Sebastian's panicked voice.
Captain, the Imperials are deploying boarding parties. What's happening over there? The Artemis it's changing.
He was right. Through the viewport, I could see the ship's hull rippling, brass plates shifting and reconfiguring like scales on some massive beast. The threshold engine whirred faster, its core glowing brighter. I knew what it was now, not just an engine, but a key itself, a way to slip between worlds, to hide in the spaces between reality. That's how the Artemis had survived all these years, suspended in a half-state, waiting for someone to remember. Waiting for me. Memory crystallizes, the sequence my mother taught me, not coordinates, but a code, a way back. My fingers moved across the control panel, inputting numbers that had waited 20 years to be remembered. The engine's rings aligned, locking into position. The core flared brilliantly, then settled into a steady pulse. Through the viewport, I watched Imperial soldiers boarding the Mockingbird. Sebastian fought bravely, but was quickly overwhelmed. They would come for the Artemis next. For the engine. For the power to slip between worlds. I couldn't let them have it. Couldn't let my mother's sacrifice be in vain.
I'm sorry, Sebastian.
I whispered, though the communicator was dead now. I pressed my palm against the engine's control panel. The ship responded instantly, as if recognizing my touch, or perhaps my blood. The Artemis shuddered, brass plates sliding into new configurations. The engine's hum deepened. Through the viewports, I watched reality ripple. The storm outside bent around us, lightning fracturing into impossible patterns. The Imperial ship seemed to slow, then freeze in place, as if time itself had stopped for everything but the Artemis and me. We slipped sideways into the space between moments, into the threshold. The Artemis had never been lost. She had been hiding, and now she had found her captain again. I stand at the helm now, charting a course through realms the Empire will never reach. The threshold engine pulses behind me, a heartbeat synchronized with my own. We are fugitives, the Artemis and I, carrying secrets that could reshape or destroy our world. Sometimes, in the quiet moments between shifts, I study the portraits in the captain's quarters. My mother's eyes seem to follow me, approving yet sorrowful. I wonder what price she paid to build this engine, what bargain she struck to hide her ship and send her daughter away. I wonder what price I will pay for awakening it again. The Artemis responds to my thoughts, as if she can hear them, brass fixtures warming beneath my touch. We understand each other, this ship and I, both transformed by forces beyond our control, both carrying fragments of a past that refuses to stay buried. They say a captain never truly owns her ship. They merely borrow each other for a while. But the Artemis and I, we possess each other completely. And somewhere, in the storm-tossed skies of the world we left behind, they're already telling stories about us. About the ship that returned from legend, only to vanish again with a new captain at her helm. About the reclaimer who found the one thing she never knew she'd lost. They'll come looking for us, of course. The Empire doesn't surrender its quarry easily. But they'll have to learn what my mother discovered all those years ago. Some ships are never meant to be found. Unless they want to be,